Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm attempting one of my most ambitious Master League experiments to date. Can I win in the Master League with a level 50 Steelix? Steelix at level 50 is only about 2700 CP, so its combat power is nothing compared to the typical Master League mons at 4000 to 4500. This is clearly a mon that should never be used in the Master League under any circumstances, but I am not going to let that stop me. I'm pairing it up with my Shadow Mewtwo and my Kyogre. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and let's check out level 50 Steelix in the Master League. The first game brings us a truly terrible lead, leading Master League Steelix into Ho-Oh. I save switch into Shadow Mewtwo, opponent is going to stay in with the Ho-Oh and fire off the Brave Bird. I commit the shield, opponent is going to counter switch into Lugia, and I'm going straight for the Hyper Beam. While Hyper Beam will do quite a lot of damage to the Lugia, this is definitely a situation where having a more conventional secondary charge move like Shadow Ball would be nice, as Shadow Ball is a lot cheaper. I'm going to double shield here. I cannot have my Steelix going up against the Ho-Oh. I'm going to farm back up to the Hyper Beam, bait with the Psy Strike. Opponent reads me like a book and calls the bait. That is extremely unfortunate. I'm going to fire off a Psy Strike. Psy Strike into the Lugia will be shielded. Mewtwo able to make one final Psy Strike, and this will guarantee switch advantage or their final shield. Opponent gives up switch. Oh, this is amazing, because now the Ho-Oh is going to be aligned against Kyogre. In comes Kyogre in the back. It's RAYQUAZA, and RAYQUAZA is absolutely walled by Master League Steelix. Master League Steelix is a nightmare for this thing. Even if RAYQUAZA has 2 shields and the Master League Steelix has 0, I don't believe RAYQUAZA is able to flip that. They go for the Dragon Ascent. That does big damage, but of course it's going to lower their defense. So I get the farm down, back in comes the Ho-Oh, and I'm just looking to debuff them as many times as I possibly can. Breaking Swipe number 1 onto the Ho-Oh, and I'm going for Breaking Swipe number 2. My switch clock should be up soon, and it is. I throw one more Dragon Tail, switch into Kyogre, and Kyogre should be able to clean up this game. Ho-Oh, of course, does have access to Brave Bird. They go for the Sacred Fire. They do get the debuff, but the Brave Bird has been too debuffed. It's not going to be doing nearly the damage that it typically would, and Kyogre is able to take the win. We see a very tough lead in the next match, Steelix into Shadow Mamoswine. Immediate save switch into the Shadow Mewtwo. Opponent is going to send out Giratina Origin, and honestly, this is perfect. I need to bait out the Giratina to hopefully let Kyogre do well in the back. Psy Strike is going to connect, opponent overfarms and plays to a CMP tie that they do not win. Psy Strike will get the shield, and honestly this is perfect. I'm just going to let this go. Opponent should probably go for an undercharge here, and they do go for an undercharge on the Ominous Wind just to get some extra energy, but now I can send in Steelix. Steelix, of course, is an absolute wall in the Great League and the Ultra League. In the Master League, its stat product is so much lower than the other legendaries that it doesn't take hits nearly as well. As you can see, that Shadow Ball did quite a lot of damage. They only make the Ominous Wind, but I'm not running Earthquake. I have a surprise for this Mamoswine, and its name is Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam will be hitting for super effective damage. Aggressive switch into Kyogre. In the back, it's Dialga, and this is not what I was hoping to see. But up a shield, Kyogre can actually do okay here. I build up to the Origin Pulse, bait with the Surf, and I get the shield. That's step 1. Okay, I need to make it to the Origin Pulse. Origin Pulse is a very powerful move. Even though it is resisted here, it's going to do a lot of damage to this Dialga. Kyogre makes it to the Origin Pulse. Is this going to be enough to KO? Origin Pulse barely does not. Dialga makes the last second Iron Head, and I'm forced to burn the final shield. The nice thing is that Waterfall KO'd. In comes the Mamoswine. Mamoswine is forced to throw, and they're very low on HP here. The question is, can Steelix take the win? In comes the Steelix. Steelix farms down the Mamoswine, and on 1 HP, gets the win. Moving into the next match, and Dialga meets an absolute wall in Steelix. Again, there's almost 2,000 CP difference between these two Pokemon. So the Steelix is doing absolutely no damage to the Dialga, but the Dialga is now debuffed, and everything they throw is going to be resisted. They go for the Draco Meteor. I'm going to save switch into my Shadow Mewtwo. Opponent is now going to send in their own Mewtwo, and again, this is another situation where potentially having something like Shadow Ball could be quite nice, but I am, of course, running Hyper Beam. They do have enough for the Shadow Ball, so I will respect it. Opponent just going to go for the Psy Strike, though. Whatever's in back is clearly not a massive fan of the Mewtwo, because switching into a mirrored down energy is typically never a good idea. They shielded, so you know what? I decide I'm going to shield here. I'm going to try and make it to the Hyper Beam. Opponent will be able to make it to a Psy Strike here, but a Psy Strike, of course, is not going to be enough to kill. So, at this point, I'm just going to look to farm up as much energy as possible. I actually decided to go for the Psy Strike, and the opponent catches on Dialga. I'm going for an undercharge here because I want energy on Kyogre. Hopefully that's the undercharge that allows Kyogre to get the farm down, but the Dialga lives with a fraction of HP, and they make the Iron Head. Thankfully, just an Iron Head there. When they send in the Mewtwo, I know Mewtwo has some energy, so I am going to throw the Surf on alignment here just to guarantee this damage, as I do need chip damage onto the Mewtwo, as now they're pretty comfortably in a range where a Psystrike would KO. Unfortunate timing there from my opponent. They end up throwing on alignment, but of course, that waterfall is not going to end up mattering just because I got KO'd. I'm going to overfarm as much as I can with the Mewtwo, go for the Psystrike. In the back, it's Xerneas, and oh boy, in this moment, I'm happy I have Hyper Beam. Shadow Mewtwo nearly gets the one-shot. I switch into Steelix, and that's a good game. We see a Nightmare lead in the next match. Steelix into Zacian. A little bit of lag there at the start. I'm going to save switch into my Shadow Mewtwo. The Zacian is going to stay in here, and they're just going straight for the Wild Charge. I'm going to let this through. Wild Charge does quite a lot of damage. Opponent now going to send in Dialga. I don't have Focus Blast, but I may as well go for the Hyper Beam just to show them that I have it. Dialga is going to get the farm down, but now it's my turn to go for farm. I can send in the Steelix, and Steelix is just going to look to farm all the way down here. They're going to fire off the Draco Meteor. That, of course, does a decent chunk of damage. It's an incredibly powerful move. Steelix is going to get the full farm down. And the nice thing is, if they send in the Zacian, I'm going to get to fire off back-to-back Heavy Slams. The downside is, I'm a Master League Steelix. So this is probably only going to do about 30% of their health. But the opponent commits the shield. Oh, this is big. And now I'm firing off another Heavy Slam here. Heavy Slam into the Zacian. We get both shields. I can send in Kyogre, and Kyogre continues to farm. Very nice charge move timing there from the Zacian. I will commit the shield, as of course they have revealed Wild Charge. I wait a turn. They don't switch, so I go for the Surf. I'm hoping this will KO due to the debuff, but it does not. The Zacian with 1 HP, able to hang on and force a final shield. Unfortunately, my mouse came up there a little bit on the screen. Sorry about that. In the back, they have Groudon, and I'm in a really good spot here. Surf is going to connect. Groudon will make it to the Precipice Blades. This will nearly KO, and I'm sending in the Steelix. Steelix, can it KO a Groudon? Yes, it can. And that's a good game. We see a familiar lead in the next match. Steelix into Ho-Oh, and this is just, again, absolutely awful. Immediate save switch into the Shadow Mewtwo. Farming up energy with the Mewtwo. Opponent actually going to overfarm past the Brave Bird, so I'm going to desync the switch timers by firing off the Psystrike. Opponent commits the shield. They immediately fire a charge move back. They go for the Sacred Fire. Do we get debuffed? We do not. And now opponent is going to send in Zacian, and I'm going straight for the Hyper Beam here. Do they respect it? They do not. Zacian gets absolutely destroyed, and now I can just shield the Wild Charge, farm down, and I have switch advantage. And that's everything I need. In comes the Ho-Oh, and I'm firing off the Psystrike here. Psystrike is not going to one-shot, of course, like a Hyper Beam, but it does get them very low. Shadow Mewtwo hits absurdly hard, and now I have the alignment that I need. Ho-Oh is going to be against the Kyogre. In comes the Kyogre. I'm able to get the farm down. In the back, it's Xerneas, and I'm going to actually switch into Steelix here. The reason being is that I can force them to go for double close combats, and then it should be a lot easier to get rid of it with Kyogre. So unfortunately, Steelix will go for the Heavy Slam, but lose CMP. Xerneas, way higher stat product, so that's easily going to win CMP. But now I can just send in the Kyogre, and now that their defense is 4 stages debuffed, these waterfalls just absolutely tear the Xerneas to shreds, and close combat will not come close to KOing. We see a pretty nice lead in the next match. Steelix into Dialga. Let's go. And the Dialga is staying in. Again, I'm not running Earthquake here, so I'm just going to go straight for the Breaking Swipe. This is honestly how most Steelixes are played in the Great League and Ultra League as well. They just stay in, continue to spam Breaking Swipes. Dialga is going to fire off their debuffed move. Even if it is the Draco, which it is, I can tank that no problem. I'm farming up and again going for another Breaking Swipe. After the 2 Breaking Swipes, and them going for the Draco. They're 4 stages debuffed here. I'm going to send in the Shadow Mewtwo, and I can tank whatever they throw. It's a 4 stages debuffed move. Even if it is the Draco, I live it. They go for the Iron Head. In the bag, they have Rayquaza, and oh my goodness, are they weak to Steelix. But my Steelix is already so low. They shield up the Side Strike because they want to get a Breaking Swipe before they take this damage. Breaking Swipe will be shielded. I throw 1 and the move, making sure that I'm throwing on good charge move timing. Side Strike into Rayquaza will be shielded. Opponent double shielding Rayquaza, and now my Steelix needs to put in a lot of work here, but it's so low on health. This is not good. Breaking Swipe connects. That just does not do a ton of damage, and they're firing off a Breaking Swipe of their own. Their Breaking Swipe will KO, so I'm going to have to commit the shield here. I watch for the switch. It's Dialga. I need the farm down here. Kyogre. Oh my goodness. Did they make the Draco on 1 HP? Dialga does make the Draco on 1 HP, and unfortunately, I cannot win this game. We've got some crazy spice in the next match. Steelix into Galarian Zapdos. I save switch into Shadow Mewtwo, and my opponent is going to respond with Reshiram. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy here with the Shadow Mewtwo and fire off the Side Strike. Reshiram is going to commit the shield, and perfect charge move timing there from my opponent, throwing 1 Dragon Breath and the move in the middle of my Psycho Cut. I'm going to farm back up with the Mewtwo, and I'm going for another Side Strike. Side Strike will not KO, but it's going to do a ton of damage here, and I'm able to make 1 final Side Strike before Reshiram is able to farm down. Reshiram on very low HP. I'm expecting they're just going to go for a blind Fusion Flare, so I'm actually going to bring in Kyogre here, as Kyogre, of course, will be resisting the Fusion Flare. And now I have a small energy head start. In the back is Meloetta, and this has got to be one of the most creative Master League teams I've seen in quite some time. Meloetta has farmed up a ton of energy. I think it can learn Thunderbolt, so I commit the shield. It's a Hyper Beam. Oh my goodness. I throw 1 Waterfall, and now I'm going for the Origin Pulse. Origin Pulse into Meloetta is going to get the KO. Back in comes the Galarian Zapdos. I'm farming up, and I just throw the Surf as soon as I get there. I need this damage. It doesn't matter that my opponent sneaks a counter, and now I can send in the Steelix Zapdos over farming as much as it possibly can. But the Breaking Swipe is reached, and Breaking Swipe will secure the win. Moving to the next match, unfortunately this time we see a much more conventional lead as I lead Steelix into Dialga, but nevertheless, pretty solid matchup here. Opponent save switches into Ho-Oh, and you know what? I will absolutely take this as in comes Kyogre. Kyogre just shredding this Ho-Oh with Waterfalls. They go for the Brave Bird, hoping to make it to another Brave Bird, but due to the defense drop, they are not able to get there. In comes Dialga. I'm firing off the Origin Pulse. Origin Pulse will deal some very solid damage onto the Dialga. Dialga gets the farm down, but they're now below half health. I send in the Steelix. Steelix farming up energy, and I'm going for the Breaking Swipe. This will not KO. We've already established Steelix does absolutely no damage, but I'm just looking for debuffs. In the back, it's Groudon. Groudon is a bit tough for Shadow Mewtwo, so I'm going to chip with a Breaking Swipe, and now I'm going to send in Shadow Mewtwo. Shadow Mewtwo farming up, making it to the Side Strike, and Side Strike would basically KO from this range. Shadow Mewtwo is just absurd amounts of damage. I commit the shield, and they do not bait. They go for the Precipice Blades. That is a massive shield. I continue to farm up with the Mewtwo, and I'm going for another Side Strike. Side Strike into the Groudon is going to be grabbing the final shield. Opponent's win con is the Groudon. They have to keep it alive. But the unfortunate thing for me here is the switch clocks are slightly desynced. Back in comes the Dialga with the banked Draco Meteor. They snipe the Mewtwo, and now I just don't have a win con anymore. Steelix can get the farm down, but there's no way Steelix is beating a Groudon. I can debuff it all I like. I can even go for a Heavy Slam, but I just cannot do enough damage to this thing before it absolutely destroys me with a Precipice Blades. So beautiful play there by my opponent, taking advantage of the slight desync of the timers, and they are able to take the win. Hopping into the final match, Steelix is greeted once again by Ho-Oh, and this is just an absolutely terrible lead. I save switch into the Shadow Mewtwo. As before, they're going to fire off the Brave Bird, and then they're going to look to switch out. In comes Dialga. I farmed up past a potential Focus Blast here, so my opponent may consider shielding. They do end up shielding the Side Strike. I'm farming up with the Mewtwo, again building back up to what could be a Focus Blast and going for the Side Strike. Side Strike now will be no shielded, and I'm going to be firing off yet another Side Strike. This will come very close to KOing here. Opponent is going to let that through. I continue to farm. Opponent gets nervous about getting farmed down, and they throw their energy. I believe they could have farmed down there, but my opponent ends up throwing the move, and that means I just get free farm on Kyogre. Kyogre now up energy. What do they have in back? Oh, they have Xerneas. This is good, as Xerneas is a Pokemon that does not necessarily want to see Kyogre. Kyogre does very good neutrally into Xerneas. I bait with the Surf, and I'm able to get the shield. I'm farming up. I switch and catch what should hopefully be a Moonblast onto my Steelix, but my opponent went for the close combat, anticipating the catch. I'm farming up with the Steelix. In comes Ho-Oh, and I'm just going to need to debuff the Ho-Oh as much as I possibly can. I'm going for the Breaking Swipe into the Ho-Oh. Again, that just does absolutely no damage whatsoever. I make it to Breaking Swipe number 2. They're going to leave with a lot of energy, but the energy, of course, is going to be heavily debuffed. And now I have to send back in Kyogre, and I'm in a bit of an interesting situation here. I need to leave very close to a move. They go for the Sacred Fire. They don't get the debuff. I'm firing off the Surf before they're able to make the Brave Bird. I know Xerneas banked a ton of energy. I need to be close to a move. In comes the Xerneas, and I am firing off the Surf here. Is Surf going to be enough to KO? Surf does not. They live on 1 HP. Oh my goodness, this is not good. I commit the shield, but they went for the Moonblast. I believe they had close combat there, back to back, but they go for the Moonblast, not wanting to lower their defense. And against all odds, we win that game. All in all, I was actually able to get some wins with Master League Steelix, which I was pretty happy about. These battles took place over the course of quite a few hours today. I was running a wide variety of teams. After hitting Legend, I did have to top left a lot of sets in the Open Great League, just to get to a point where I could actually play the Master League again. But I'm now in a spot where I can pretty reliably get Qs, which is nice. Master League Steelix, it's a really funny idea. Unfortunately, it just does no damage whatsoever, so that makes it really, really tough to use. But it ended up being a lot of fun getting to absolutely wall some Steelix and Rayquaza, and of course, bringing the Hyperbeam Mewtwo out of retirement to land some nukes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.